Why are so many people, myself included, down on Nebraska's defense? This question was asked by Deku, or maybe it's Deku. It's spelled Dekeku. He asked this question via my Discord server. Link to that is in the description. Join it, navigate to the YouTube mailbox channel, ask me a question, and I will make a video out of your question in due time. And while we're here, subscribe to the channel, like the video to give us a boost into the algorithm, and hit the notification bell for my channel and the Nebraska Football podcast that's linked in the description. Whether you're on a computer or phone, it should pop up even at the top of the description. It should be pretty obvious to find. Easy, just signs you up for when I make videos about Nebraska football, which I love to talk about the Cornhuskers. So let's talk about them right here. I believe that this defense is taking a step back because of how much they lost. Think about the defensive line and how much they lost. I mean, they return Riley Van Poppel. They return Cameron Lenhart. Sure. But what about who they lose? They lose Ty Robinson. They lose Nash Hutmacher. They lose James Williams. They lose Princewell Unman Malin. They lose, I believe, let me think. Who else do they lose on the defensive line? It's a lot more than what I'm just saying. They lost some guys that just either aren't going to start or they aren't going to perform at a high level at other schools. Some depth pieces, but a lot of starters too. Gosh, I ashamedly forget who else they lost outside of those four, but still, that is a large amount of players that you lose, that you lost to either the portal or to the NFL draft. It's a lot that you lost. And Nebraska does not quite recruit at the level to where they can lose that much and come close to reloading. Even though, like, Michigan lost 2 first-round D tackles, Nebraska's D tackles were an undrafted free agent and a day 3 pick. Michigan still has the recent pedigree and development and recruiting there to where they may have an easier time reloading than Nebraska does, even though they had a much better D line and lose more in terms of top-tier talent there. And I think Michigan's taking a step back on D line. I think that for sure. So why wouldn't I think that Nebraska is going to, especially when they do not have the same recent history there? You also have a change at defensive coordinator, going from Tony White to John Butler. Now they're running the same scheme, but it's still a DC change. And while I like the linebacker room for Nebraska, Vincent Shavers Jr., Desan McCullough, Marquise Watson-Trent, Bullock is gone at linebacker, and there is some reliance on transfers there. And I also look at the DBs last year, and Nebraska returns a lot at defensive back. But I think Sierra Wright is the only really great player they bring back there. There are some others who could maybe step up, but I think that they struggled there last year. The defense was a little bit inconsistent overall, and they lose so much. Oh, I found it. I found some other guys they lost. So Jamari Butler, for example, they lost him to LSU. They lost Mekhi Bayer to Missouri, and then he left Missouri and transferred to North Carolina. Stephon Thompson, depth piece, but still, depth can be very valuable. And then some really guys who were deep in the defensive line, not huge losses. Vincent Carroll Jackson, Brody Tagaloa, Kai Wallen, again, guys who were not going to start, maybe wouldn't have even received playing time, but still, losses to the portal. And I already named some big ones. So 37 total outgoing transfers. 37 of them. And a lot of those were on the defense, on the front. So when I look at Nebraska's defense, I think to myself, you lose that much, you change DC. It's a lot like Ohio State, if I'm being honest. Like, the D-line situation's like Michigan minus the transfers, and Michigan brought in higher quality transfers in the D-line than Nebraska did. Guys who could start. Nebraska only really brought in some depth pieces on the D-line. I look at Nebraska's defense and it reminds me a lot of Ohio State, where they lose a ton, except Nebraska doesn't have the quality of athlete Ohio State does. They do not have Caleb Downs or anyone close to him who could compensate for an entire position unit maybe being shaky. Bless me. And then Patricia is a question mark for Ohio State at DC, but at least he's been a defensive coordinator for several years. Butler only has one prior year of defensive coordinator experience, and that was at Penn State over a decade ago under Bill O'Brien. So I think that's why a lot of people are down on Nebraska's defense. I mean, look, they went 7-6 last year, 3-6. They have a preseason win total of 7.5. Their preseason S&P plus and returning production are both outside the top 30. This is a team that I don't think is set up to have this fantastic breakthrough season like Matt Rhule teams usually do. Now, they have a lot of reasons to break through, but I think more of them are on the offense than the defense. Dylan Raiola's back for year 2. Dana Holgerson is going to be the OC for a full year for the first time. Emmett Johnson comes back. They brought in Rocco Spindler at guard from the portal. Henry Lutovsky and Justin Evans return to anchor a strong interior O-line. They bring in Dane Key, return Ja'Cory Barney Jr. They bring in Neziah Hunter. Luke Lindenmeyer seems poised to break out at tight end. And they return some guys on defense, like Sear Wright and Vincent Shavers Jr., who I think are ready to be good. Deshaun McCullough, Marquise Watson Trent are good incoming transfers at linebacker, but they're relying on some transfers. I know Andrew Marshall is someone that they're relying a little bit on at corner. Idaho transfer at corner. So relying on transfers there can be a bit shaky. And they don't have the ideal depth that I think they want on defense, especially on the defensive line with how much they lost and how they've recruited there. It's not me criticizing Nebraska because Matt Rhule's only in year 3, inherited a bad situation, and keep in mind he's adjusting to the game too. His Temple and Baylor rebuilds were much different because they didn't operate in the NIL and transfer portal era, whereas Nebraska is, and Nebraska's much higher expectations than Baylor and Temple. And honestly, relative to expectations, he probably inherited better situations at Temple and Baylor than he did at Nebraska. And those places, those places did not give him a good foundation when he came either. So I think that's why a lot of people are lower on Nebraska's defense.